It's November 11th, 2020, Veterans Day. I apologize in advance. I was going to shoot this video earlier this morning, but I had to rehang my flag. It was drooping in the middle and just not appropriate for honoring veterans, the way the flag was hanging. This is a United States Department of Veterans Affairs flag. It has 48 stars. This was my maternal grandfather's coffin flag. He died on his birthday in 1946. I never knew him. I didn't come along till 11 years later. But my granddad Elms, Ora Elms, he was a Rough Rider in the Spanish-American War, 1898. But he never saw action because he, and along with about 2,000 other U.S. volunteer soldiers, he was in a Army camp hospital in Georgia with typhoid fever. So this was Grandpa's coffin flag. My dad, yesterday marks the 16th anniversary of his passing. He joined the U.S. Army in 1939 to avoid the ravages of the Great Depression and take care of his mother, have a steady paycheck. And he and Mom, their anniversary is coming up next week, November 17th. Dad passed away in 2004 from Alzheimer's. Mom passed away in 2010. She was 88. Dad was 84. But Dad was buried in the Mount Tahoma National Cemetery in Kent, Washington, with full military honors because of his service in World War II. Sorry, I'm choking up a little bit. Mom and Dad got married in November 1941. Dad was stationed at Camp Lewis in Washington State, which is now Joint Base Lewis-McChord. They didn't even have barracks in those days. They all had tents. And if you've ever been in the Pacific Northwest in a tent in wintertime, well, just kind of gives you an idea of what my old man was made of. Anyway, the executive officer of Dad's division was Colonel Dwight David Eisenhower, who later, of course, as you all know, became the Supreme Allied Commander for the invasion of Europe and eventually the President of the United States. Mom and Dad got married, and then the next day Dad was on a troop train south to San Francisco where he boarded a troop ship bound for the Philippines. And a lumber ship had left about 2 or 3 days prior to Dad's troop ship. Well, they got 3 days out from San Francisco, and all of a sudden here was all this lumber floating on top of the ocean. They were unescorted, and there was about 2,500 U.S. soldiers on that ship, so the commanding officer turned the ship around and headed back to San Francisco, which is a good thing because we all know what happened in the Philippines. Dad would have been part of that. Well, eventually Dad ended up in the China-Burma India theater of World War II and fought with distinction there, 2 Bronze Stars. He was a Signal Corps company commander. And he never, of course, talked about the war for obvious reasons. I remember as a kid, I asked him one time, my dad was deaf as a post. Couldn't even hear birds sing. And I asked him one time what caused his hearing loss. And I got a very abrupt, short answer: 50 caliber machine guns. Later on, as a young man, I had asked Dad what terrified him most during the war. And I was expecting, a Japanese banzai attack or something to that effect, or airstrike. He had a one-word answer: artillery. In 1968, my brother was 18 years old, and Dad was sweating bullets because he knew, being a Southeast Asian jungle combat soldier, he knew what was facing my brother. Well, fortunately, my brother was an apprentice in the naval shipyard that I eventually worked at and retired from. And so he had a defense-related job, but nevertheless, he went down and joined the National Guard and served for 6 years. And he later left the shipyard, went to the police academy, became a police officer, and served with distinction. Retired several years ago. And then, of course, Vietnam was still raging, and got into the early 70s, and Dad started sweating bullets again because here I was in high school. Well, Vietnam ended in my senior year of high school, and so Dad breathed a sigh of relief. Both of his sons avoided what he went through. Also want to mention my father-in-law, Nancy's dad. He was a Marine during World War II in the South Pacific. And you can all imagine what he saw. And after World War II, he switched services and joined the newly formed United States Air Force and served 29 years and retired. Nancy grew up on Air Force bases all over the world. My son-in-law, my one son-in-law, he was a cavalry scout in Afghanistan with the U.S. Army Stryker Brigade. Our youngest son, he currently serves in the United States Navy. He's a little over halfway through a 20-year career, and he's staying. He's a lifer. What's this all mean? You're looking at it. It means freedom. And not just the U.S. flag. The English Union Jack, the Australian flag, the Canadian flag, allies all over the world, means freedom. And unfortunately nowadays there are those that think that desecrating this, saying that it stands for racism and hatred and all that other nonsense, and they burn it and disrespect it. They don't have a clue. They just don't know. They've been fed a line of crap in their underwater basket weaving classes at their liberal arts colleges. They just don't know. My advice to them would be go talk to a concentration camp survivor. My aunt, God bless her, she's 96 years old. She was a war bride. She's a Croat from the former Yugoslavia. And she spent time in the labor camps under Nazi occupation. And she married my uncle, who was a U.S. Army veteran, Battle of the Bulge survivor. He was interviewed shortly before he died by a local news program up in Tacoma, Washington, because he was awarded a French Legion of Merit medal in a very wonderful ceremony. The governor of the state of Washington declared it Doug Elms Day, and the French dignitaries from the French consulate came and awarded him the medal. During that interview, he said that they were totally caught off guard by the Germans, and his outfit lost 8,500 men in 2 hours. Yeah. So, those of you that want to burn this, desecrate it, disrespect it, call it something it isn't, I got news for you. There's a lot of a silent majority out there that know what this means. And we'll resist you with our dying breath. God bless you all, and especially God bless all the veterans, gone and present day. Take care, everybody.